Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. The audio is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. Check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. If you would like a call back, please leave your number. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by news media. I always select a few for my listeners' information. Most are good shootings, some are not so good, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm home or carry one in public. The individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, or regional accents into American English. The incidents are as reported, with the names of the participants deleted. The names of the cops, the lawyers, and the media are generally used. First, I want to do a gun law update. The White House might be assembling talent for the big show. The incoming chairman of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Durbin, he's a Democrat from Illinois, is getting the crew ready to do the performance. Senator Durbin tweeted, "Today, I had a chance to speak with a group of gun violence prevention advocates from across the country. I told them that reducing gun violence will be a top priority of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I will never stop fighting for gun safety." Senator Durbin ignores that he's from a state with among the strictest gun control laws in America and a soaring homicide rate in Chicago, his biggest city. Clearly, gun control isn't working there, and Senator Durbin can't understand that criminals ignore gun control laws. What the Biden administration, Susan Rice, and Senator Durbin gloss over is that Americans voted over 21 million times in 2020 that they wanted their gun rights. They did this each and every time they submitted to the FBI National Instant Criminal Background Check System, what we call NICS. NICS, for a clearance to purchase a firearm. If President Biden's first month in office, another 2 million NICS checks were performed for the sale of a firearm, the most ever recorded in any January. In fact, 3 of the top 10 weeks for NICS checks came during January 2021, and one day broke into the top 10 days for NICS checks overall ever. So far in the last 13 months, 9 out of the 10 top weeks for NICS checks were recorded. Americans don't want gun control. They want their personal safety and their rights to protect themselves. President Biden might be getting the gun control show back together, but they're singing from yesteryear's songbook. They are out of tune with America. It may come back to bite them. Hopefully it will. We're going to break here for just a second for a commercial about getting my newest book on Amazon Kindle. I'll be right back. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. And the book looks like this. You can read the whole thing in 2.5, 3 hours, and it may save you a lot of heartache. I encourage everybody to go to Amazon Kindle and get one of these. They're less than $5. Okay, TulsaWorld.com, a journalist named Kelsey Schottenhauer, reports February 2nd, 2021 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A shooting took place a few minutes before 8 in the evening in the 5600 block of West 3rd Street. A woman apparently shot her former boyfriend during a reported home invasion on Tuesday evening. Deputy Justin Green said the man was hospitalized in stable condition with a gunshot wound to his chest. Tulsa County Sheriff's Office detectives were interviewing the woman. Deputy Green said when she called, she didn't say that she had shot the invader, but apparently she did. You should bring that up. The female victim was cut by glass, but the detectives aren't sure about what happened before they arrived. Deputy Green added, "It is our understanding they were at one point in time boyfriend and girlfriend. We have a history of domestics there, so we're kind of familiar with them." The name of those involved were not released as of this report, but Deputy Green said the man is in his early 30s and the woman is in her mid-30s. No one else was in the home at the time. The boyfriend, who cannot take no for an answer, had this woman not been armed, this would have been a rather tragic incident. Restraining orders sometimes fail to stop these ego-driven jerks. There is rarely time for law enforcement to respond except to mop up the blood. Self-protection is the only workable option. Get armed, get trained, and survive. Third story. This is from CBS 4 in Denver, reported in Oak Creek, Colorado. A shooting was reported at 218 East Highland Street. The Routt County Sheriff's Office says a 46-year-old man is believed to have shot 3 people at 2 different locations and was then shot by a citizen. Investigators believe the 46-year-old suspect shot a man in the neighborhood of Oak Creek Wednesday afternoon. The intended victim was struck by a bullet but not seriously injured. Minutes later, investigators received reports of shots fired in the area of 201 Wild Hog Drive. Apparently, the same shooter had driven a few blocks and started shooting at a mobile home park. Investigators say the 46-year-old fired shots outside unit number 37 and then went inside. Once inside, the investigators say the 46-year-old tried to shoot a resident there, but his handgun malfunctioned. The resident tackled the shooter, but the 46-year-old was able to fire several more shots. That's when another man in the home got a gun and shot the 46-year-old intruder, killing him. Comments here: I always advocate practicing with the firearm and ammunition combination that you plan to use for emergencies. In this case, the perp had a malfunction that saved the life of his intended victim. Fortunately, it was the bad guy rather than the victim that did not make sure his firearm worked properly. Calling a gunsmith when shots are flying is clearly not a workable option, unless they're real quick. We're going to break here for a word from a few of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. Story number 4. This is from WKRN News 2. It's an ABC affiliate. Reported February 6, 2021 in Old Hickory, Tennessee. A shooting happened around 9:20 in the evening in the 4300 block of Old Hickory Boulevard near the Hermitage line at a building with several businesses, including a child-friendly trampoline park. Metro Police say a 20-year-old male was shot and killed in the parking lot of Urban Air on Old Hickory Boulevard. Detectives were told that the deceased and a friend were participating in a prank robbery as part of a YouTube video and approached a group of people, which included the shooter, with butcher knives. A 23-year-old man told police he shot the 20-year-old and wasn't aware the robbery was a prank. He called it self-defense. Urban Air customer, a lady named Elmy Yeager, told News 2, "This is like a huge kids area, and we were in there. There were a ton of tiny kids, and just like that, I would not be a great idea, especially if anyone was walking out here and doing something like that." She's referring to doing this idiot thing in a kids area. No charges have been filed, and the investigation is ongoing. Comments here. The witness is referring to the absolute stupidity of the guy who decided to make a video of a fake knife attack in an area full of children. It's pretty stupid to do that anywhere, actually. The 23-year-old's claim of self-defense is misplaced, as he was actually defending a third party. He reasonably perceived that the third party was in danger of death. This is where loud, clear verbal warnings can help if there is time available for their use. It appears this case will hinge on the usual factors: a reconstruction of time available, distance between the players, their physical sizes and agility, etc. Hopefully, some clear video of the confrontation will be found. That'll make the whole thing a lot easier. Story number 5. This is from WTSB Channel 10, Tampa Bay, reports February 8th, 2021 in Frostproof, Florida. That's the name of the place. A resident's wife heard banging on the front door around 1 in the morning while their 3 children were sleeping. She awakened her husband. When the husband went to check, he saw the front door had been forced open, so he grabbed a handgun. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said the husband found the subject outside in front of the home, yelling obscenities at him. According to law enforcement, the husband told the subject to leave numerous times, but he did not. The subject suddenly charged at the homeowner, who said he was in fear of his life, and fired 1 round. That bullet hit the subject, but authorities say the subject wasn't finished. He walked a few feet away, then turned around and charged again. The husband reacted to that threat by shooting him a second time. Detectives responded to the scene and tried life-saving efforts, but as yet the unidentified subject died at Sebring Hospital. Sheriff Judd wrote in a news release, "People have the right to be safe in their home, and when necessary, defend that safety. At this point in the investigation, the evidence indicates that the resident acted in self-defense." According to the sheriff's office, the subject's criminal history includes 9 felonies and 9 more misdemeanors, including sexual assault, domestic battery, tampering with evidence, forgery, resisting a law enforcement officer, possession of marijuana, driving on a suspended license, violation of probation, and failure to appear. Comments here: the attacker's history indicates that he was just repeating his criminal activity until he found an armed citizen with the will and the skill to end his criminal career. In this case, he will be a convicted felon now. It'll be even more difficult to find useful employment. Historical studies of crime data confirm that criminals often continue until shot by one of their victims. If they survive, their jail time may cause them to reconsider their life choices. In my brief stint as a youth parole officer here in Nevada, I'm aware of how tough it is for a young convicted felon to change his life's direction. Programs are available. I hope this guy chooses to use them. We're going to break for one short message again from our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. Story number 6. The Victor Valley News reports February 8th, 2021 in Apple Valley, California. On Sunday, February 7, 2021 at 5 in the late afternoon, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department deputies responded to the 16,200 block of Powhaska Street on reports of a stabbing and shooting. Arriving, the deputies found a 33-year-old male and a 55-year-old female deceased in the front of a home, and a 58-year-old laying in the street suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. Homicide detectives determined the 33-year-old suspect was at the home of his 58-year-old father and 55-year-old stepmother. For unknown reasons, he attacked them with a knife. According to a sheriff's news release, both victims ran outside and sought help from neighbors. At that moment, the 33-year-old suspect had left the location. While neighbors called 911 and assisted the stabbing victims, the 33-year-old returned and began attacking his stepmother again with a knife. Seeing this unfold, an 84-year-old neighbor ran into his home, armed himself with a gun. He came back outside and yelled at the 33-year-old suspect to stop. The 33-year-old ignored the warning and continued stabbing his 55-year-old stepmother. At that time, the elderly neighbor shot the 33-year-old, and that stopped the attack. The 84-year-old neighbor was shaken up but not injured. The 58-year-old father was airlifted to a hospital and remains hospitalized. The investigation is ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to contact Detective Simon Demurray, homicide detail. They're at 909-387-3589. Comments here: an old guy with a gun saves an intended victim. It kind of warms my heart. It seems obvious that this attacker had serious mental or emotional issues. This is a complex case with lots of other factors may be involved. The fact that an armed neighbor was able to intervene and stop any additional murders is truly heroic. If the current Washington, D.C. administration is successful in disarming the general public, an armed bystander may not be available when you need one. Perhaps Beto O'Rourke will show up in person to save the victims. Never mind, he probably won't. Story number 7. We're going to probably run over a little bit, but I want to get this in. February 9, this is from KFI-TV, Virtual Channel 8. It's affiliated with both ABC and CBS. They reported February 9, 2021 in Idaho Falls, Idaho. A sheriff's deputy pulled over a vehicle in Idaho Falls shortly after midnight because of a broken taillight. While the driver remained in her vehicle, the passenger fled. Idaho Falls Police Department officers and deputies were called to the scene and began searching for the man, later identified as a local 22-year-old, who was described as wearing a black shirt and khaki pants. A resident told an officer they had seen the suspect run through their yard, and the resident believed the subject was armed with a gun. That was reported by NBC News. Police said this in a statement that all their officers were given that information. East Idaho News reported at one point the driver of the vehicle received a text message from the 22-year-old that shared his GPS location. That put him in the backyard of a nearby residence. According to the statement from the Idaho Falls Police Department, officers and deputies surrounded the residence and backyard in order to prevent the suspect from fleeing. Due to the information that the suspect may be armed and a prior history of violence when interacting with police officers, law enforcement personnel entered the location with their service weapons drawn. Officers then heard yelling and approached the backyard, where they found a man wearing a black shirt and holding a gun. The officers told him to drop the gun. At some point in the confrontation, one of the officers shot the man. Officers and emergency medical from the fire department tried unsuccessfully to save this injured person. He was not the 22-year-old they were looking for. Idaho Falls Police Chief Bryce Johnson said at a news conference, "We do not currently have answers as to what exactly occurred during these moments. There are no words to express how heavy our hearts are today." Johnson said in a statement, "This situation is devastatingly tragic." Authorities did not identify the victim or the officer who shot him. The officer wore a body camera, and that was in operation during the incident. Bonneville County Sheriff's Office said the man who was being pursued was found hiding in a shed and arrested. He was booked at the Bonneville County Jail on outstanding warrants for failure to show up in court on charges of felony battery on a police officer, resisting arrest, and providing false information to police. A tragic incident here to all involved. The combination of speed of events, the darkness, the confusing radio traffic from so many agencies that were involved here make it an impossible situation. Police are always reacting to partial or questionable information and sometimes make mistakes. A careful investigation is needed to bring all of these details to light. My heart goes out to the officer who fired the fatal shot. There, but for the grace of God, go all of us. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio station. When watching any media, please click on subscribe so new shows can be sent to your phone or computer automatically each week. Check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you're ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms and even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their associated outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. Contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you for watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin. Stay tuned for our disclaimer. It will give you a little more information on how we work the show. Have a good week.